Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Lead podcast. I'm your co-host today. My name is Grace Nafula. At the organization, I serve as a communication lead.
And I'm Thomas Ayuaki. I serve as a project lead for all of our digital skills and computer science education programs. And it's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Thank you, Tom. And we have an important and special guest with us here today for this episode. I'll just allow her to introduce herself to all of us.
Thank you, Grace, and good morning, everyone. My name is Constantine Obuya. I'm the Executive Director at the African Center for Women, Information and Communications Technology, many times called ACWICT, and I'm happy to be here with you today.
Thank you too, Madam. And we have so much that we want to handle in today's episode. We want to talk about the organization's journey through COVID-19, how it impacted the organization and its work, and even the society at large. We also want to spend some time to discuss some of the critical interventions that we were able to develop to take us through that tough time, and then just how much those inventions were able to open up doors and opportunities for us to work with amazing donors and partners such as GSMA, WIPFLI. We're going to get into all of that, and then we'll have a fun light moment at the end that will then just be able to close this wonderful, wonderful engagement. So without wasting any more time, I want to go straight into it. And we mentioned in the first episode ACWICT, but no one really knows. We want to be able to know who is ACWICT, what is ACWICT, what's the kind of work that we do. So, Madam, in your own words, as our team leader, you can give us in detail, who is ACWICT? What kind of work are we doing right now?
Thank you very much, Grace. I'm certain for sure for the 20 years that we've existed, there will be people who haven't heard about us for various reasons. But the African Center for Women, Information and Communications Technology, or ACWICT, as we know in short, is registered as a non-governmental organization here in Kenya, and with the mission of promoting women and youth access to ICTs as tools for sustainable development. Our focus on women and youth is about those that are coming from marginalized and disadvantaged backgrounds. So in a typical, engagement in a country, we work with those that come from urban informal settlements and rural setups. We focus on a number of thematic areas. We work in the area of education. We work in the area of promoting access to employment. We work in the area of digitizing agricultural services, and also it's just digitizing health services, all meant at improving service delivery and creating opportunity for women and youth from those backgrounds that I just mentioned.
Thank you. And looking at the programs that we've been able to implement, some of the people that we've been able to impact and the regions we've been able to reach, just how significant do you think the partnerships that we've been able to foster in the 20 plus years have been in making sure that all the programs and all the impact that we hope to deliver to the youth and the society has come through?
Yes, good question. Partnerships have Good question. Partnerships have supported or have been a part and parcel of ACWICT's journey until today. ACWICT, at the initial setup or at the beginning of it, was just an idea that came into the minds of, three colleagues that wanted to work together to explore just the space of ICT for development. At around that time, 20 years ago, there was a lot of talk about the opportunities that could come with leveraging ICT, mainstreaming ICT in people's day-to-day lives. So we wanted to tap into that global conversation and see just what that would translate to in Kenya today. So it was an idea at that time in the minds of three people that needed to be born and needed to be handheld to grow. And so the journey of ACWICT from the time of inception today has been the journey of partnership. And that's why, as an organization, partnerships, for progress is a very, very key agenda in our work. And over the years, we have had, I would say, quite a number of partnerships. I would categorize them in several categories. We have partners that are based at the community level. These are the ones that help us with the day-to-day, implementation of activities, outreach, and ensuring that we're reaching to that unreached person for whom our strategies and programs are developed. We have partnerships with governments, for instance, for here in Kenya, both county level and national government. And all this is so that we can be able to, apart from just influencing policy through the work that we do, but to also leverage on the resources that are made available by government to help us reach our goals. We have partners who provide, in-kind support, both in kind and cash support. We have partners providing us technology that we're able to deploy. Some of it we even able to customize and use, within our local context. And then we have partners that also just provide us resources like, cash grants that have made it possible for us to be able to do all that we have done over the years. And when I say all that we have done, it's really, there has been a significant shift in the communities that we have worked with. As we speak today, we have thousands of young women and men outside there that are able to earn a living out of the digital skilling programs that we offer at both basic, intermediate, and advanced level. We have big numbers of women outside there, women farmers, that are able to improve their farm production as a result of being given digital skills that enable them to access digital content that is relevant to their agricultural practices. Content like weather, forecasts, content that getting to understand soil, the nature of their soil and just what they could plant at any one time in that soil. We have healthcare workers that are able to deliver healthcare services today from a remote point of view, just because of the skills and the training that they have gone through. We have educationists, teachers who are able to deliver classes. We have, and teach virtually as a result of the trainings that they have gone through. We have young people themselves, learners, that are using this technology, the digital technology, in different ways to earn a living. And, if I was just to speak about numbers, perhaps close to 300,000 now over the last 20 years. So we've had a long history of working with women, to just find out and youth to explore the different ways in which they can earn a living for this, technology, in this technological revolution. Yeah.
So I just wanted to stay there for a few minutes. Looking back at the impact we've had, and basically the narrative that we've been able to shift, what would you say is the biggest achievement when engaging with partners? What have you been able to see over the years as a team leader when it comes to engagement with partnership, and what would you like to share in terms of just how important it is to foster that relationship and manage it throughout your period as a team leader?
The one thing that we have had to come to terms with, Thomas, has been the fact that we, as the African Center for Women in ICT, stand in between our partners and the beneficiary and the person that our partner would like to support. So one of the key things that we have come to learn over the years is that as an organization we needed to be trustworthy. We needed to be reliable. We needed to give our partners the confidence that indeed, if they entrusted their resources in us with the goal of reaching out to that disadvantaged woman or youth, then these resources would be, would be delivered, whether by means of, digital skilling. The strategy is what we'll have agreed upon, but we'll for sure make sure that the work is done as has been agreed. That is very, very key. The second thing I've learned over the years is that in managing my partnerships and our partnerships at ACWICT is just the ability to communicate. Apart from delivering to the agreed targets, communicate. Because sometimes, and many times, when you begin implementing a project, the situation may vary. The circumstances may vary from that that you communicated in your concept note and your proposal. And so the need to constantly and regularly have that conversation, report any risk that is arising in the middle of implementation of a project, so that you jointly look at how to manage that risk, because that does happen.
Yes.
External forces that come up, or factors that come up during project implementation that were not foreseen at the beginning.
Yeah.
So that open communication of being able, to lay it out bare, and let your partner know that perhaps the routing you had picked at the project inception may not succeed because of an external factor, and therefore they need again to jointly just look at how that is done. Aspects of promptness in time. If you have to deliver a report, if you have to answer to a question, if you need to clarify a point, prompt, responsiveness is very, very key.
Yeah.
And especially for us here, also to note that most of our partners are not within the same time zone. So sometimes you need to sacrifice a little bit,
That's
because
true.
the question has come in at an hour that may be odd here. You need to still try to address it within that time, or the nearest time possible. And I believe for them as well, for partners who are outside Kenya as well, it happens the same, because they also raise this, I may communicate at an hour that is broad daylight for me here. It may not be the same for them there, but we'll still get to speak. I have in mind this time when we are launching one of our programs, a digital platform that we had developed, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it again later in the program. The ACWICT Skills for Employment digital platform, and our partner from WIPFLI, with whom we had worked tirelessly in developing this platform, we really needed him to be part of the launch. We would have felt incomplete if we didn't have Chris Bryant on the launch of the program. And on his side, I think it was 2 a.m. or that kind of time in the night, and it was around midday here. But he had to sacrifice and be up that early for him to be with us here. And so many times I want to participate in a conference. The conference is being organized away from Kenya. Perhaps it's midday there when it's 11 p.m. here. So that bit of just trying to make sure that you are working within the required time frame, and adjusting as much as you can to be able to meet into some of these activities that partners may organize. And just generally, like I said before, the bit of being time conscious and timeliness in the way you do your things. Yeah.
So just one last thing before we move back to Grace. One of the things that has been instilled in us is just the importance of valuing all of these partners, local or global. So is this something that in hindsight was there from the very beginning? Or from what you are sharing, is this something that you've learned through, various milestones, pitfalls to get to where we are? Because I think what I love about the explanation you've just given is that all of this seems to be based on different experiences that you've had with partners that have shaped your outlook on programming moving forward.
I think very, very, very much, I think it's been a journey of learning. But again, that I would say in a way that it was part of our ACWICT. We valued and value today every partner that we have ever had, whether it has been a partner that has, regardless of what they have, contributed into the work that we do. Today, we still carry partnerships that we had even like 15 years ago, and they are still our partners today. Because we look at partnership as not just that moment when we are working together. For us, partnership is a journey that we walk together with this. If there's something we're doing together, like there's a live project we're implementing, fine. If there isn't a project we are engaging, we still keep that partnership. We still keep the communication open. And that's why, until today, even the very first partner that we worked with worked with as ACWICT is still our partner until today. Even the service providers, when I talk about the service providers, we also just don't let them off because they have provided us as a service and they have gone. It's that whole system of process of building a network that you can rely on, a network that you can bounce an idea to, a network that if an opportunity arises, you feel confident in delivering a proposal idea to, a network that you can even just reach out to find out how best to conduct or do something that you wish to do, and you don't have a clear thought process through it. So our partners are very valuable to us, and over the years we have learned the need just to keep them. Yeah. So sometimes we even say, for us, partnership is almost like just hand holding and walking down the road, because you don't want to lose your partner for anything, especially if you value them beyond just, for example, if they're funding partners, find a way to value your partner beyond just what is happening. Yeah.
And I want to take us back in time for just a bit, back to 12th March 2020, when the first case of COVID was announced here in Kenya. What was your reaction then? And at that time, did you believe that it would take us this long to get back to any sense of normalcy?
Yeah, 12th March 2020, and the government of Kenya makes the announcement that the country is going into a lockdown, offices are closing, COVID is here. Let me start by saying that we had been hearing about COVID, but from far and wide. So it didn't look like something that was coming. We had been hearing about it, we were reading about it online. There was talk about this pandemic that is happening, but it was far. So it was far, yes, we're going on with our business as usual until this first case is discovered here in Kenya. And there's a bit of mention about it. And 2 days later, the government makes the announcement and we have to close. Obviously, Grace, there was fear that gripped everyone.
Yeah.
There was a sense of confusion that gripped everyone. We were all anxious because from the date we heard about, then the government announced, we closed the office, I think, 2 days later. We still came back to the office just to assemble and try to understand what was happening. But you could see from the eyes of everybody, I, as their team leader and their colleague, could see in the face of everyone that there was that fear. So many questions unanswered. So what? Closing for how long? And how are we going to continue working? But anyway, everything said and done, we had to assemble and agree that we were going to go home and we were going to monitor the situation. Then we didn't think it was going to take so long. It looked like something that was just happening and that would get out of our way in a month. And would convene to work again, and people would go back to their normal lives, and we would start moving. People would travel, people would assemble in public spaces and all that. But that was not to be.
I actually thought, I remember thinking that, okay, so this is only going to take a month tops. So maybe it's our chance to go and rest
and pick back up after the month.
For us, I remember we had a very tough 2 years from a program's perspective. We were traveling a lot. There's quite a lot that we needed to do at county level. So those 2 to 3 months leading up to that date was, I think, the first time in 2 years that most of the program staff had assembled in
one at the secretariat.
So just to back up, we thought that it was going to take a month, only to realize that that was never going to be the case.
And you've mentioned something, Tom, and I just want to build on that. You've mentioned that there were programs that you were running before the pandemic hit, and we all had to go back home under executive's direction, and the government still at large. So I want to hear from Madam, from the position that you are in, looking at all of the colleagues that you have here. How then did that initial stage of the government imposed lockdowns, how much effect did it have to the programs that we were implementing even before the pandemic hit?
I would say this, Grace, when the pandemic hit, and like I've said before, we had to comply with the government's orders. The first thing that was on our mind, priority for us, was to close the office and, have colleagues and staff go back home as we waited for situation to subsidize. But when a week into it, 2 weeks into it, there didn't seem to be anything close to people or us coming back to normalcy, we started rethinking our work. Because remember, at that time, we had also, with that lockdown order, we had also stopped our projects and asked all our partners, the students, the learners, the participants that were in classes all across the country and here in Nairobi, asked them to go back home and that we would communicate later about what would be, the next step. Because by that time, really about 90% of delivery of our program was being done in a physical way.
Yeah.
So they went. Then we went. And then as a staff, we found ways of beginning to communicate immediately using some of this communication software that we have, trying out which could work. And then we started, basically using that to keep in touch. But then as we went on with that, what now started worrying us more was what was happening to the women and youth that we serve. Those that we had already engaged, that were engaged on ongoing projects, those that we stopped from their training sessions in class. So what were we going to do to, continue reaching out, to continue at least having, giving them some sense of hope? Because remember, with that executive order, offices closed, jobs were lost. Nobody was going to continue paying a salary where a service is not being offered. So with jobs being lost, sources of livelihoods were also being lost. So these families now are plunged into the situations of dire need. How are we going to reach out to them, even to give them that message of hope? We knew somehow, and we were sure as a technology-driven organization that there's something that could continue happening around, using ICT or technology to, receive services and also deliver services. So what really happened to us was that we had to rethink our approaches. We had to rethink our strategies, both for the ongoing programs then and also for the long term, because it was now evident that this was going to be here with us for a longer period of time.
So is that where the, sorry for interrupting, so is that where the work from home initiative came about? Because I remember seeing an email, this was 8 to 10 weeks post the announcement. I remember seeing an email on my inbox titled the Work from Home Initiative. So kindly take us through how that came about and why it was so important for the entire organization to buy into this process from the very beginning.
Yes, Thomas, we needed to continue working.
Yeah.
That's one thing for sure. And we needed to continue working in order to continue driving our agenda as an organization. We had targets to meet. Remember, we had just begun a year and the whole year's work plan was on our hands. And just 3 months into it before we settled, we were being faced with a hard stop of sorts where we needed to stop. So in that reimagining how we needed to work, and with the team's effort, because all this, for about 1 whole month, immediately we went home, the ACWICT technical team started looking at different ways in which we can continue delivering services, especially training. And I could see them engaging and working so hard around it. Then right to me, I said, well, then it looks like we can work from home. If this team is constantly on phone, they are talking on phone, they're agreeing on what they want to do, they're looking for the best way we can continue delivering training, they're assessing different training platforms and just looking at how we can take advantage of those platforms and be able to continue working and delivering training, then I realized that there was a way we could be able to work from home and work from home effectively. And so, after analyzing and looking at what was happening and how the technical team was staying connected and working, together with the management of ACWICT, then we had decided that we'll actually, just declare a work from home environment so that we can stay connected as team members, and we can continue working together regardless of, the distance that now separated us. So it was now to try to find out how guys can be connected, how they can constantly have access to the internet, the gadgets, be they laptops, be they, desktop computers or phones. How do we make ourselves, prepared for a work from home environment? And that was the beginning of that. And it has been a very successful journey for us, I'm sure. If you asked anyone in ACWICT, the kind of impact and achievements we made during that phase for us has encouraged us. And for sure, we're no longer very much worried about staff member being here or sometimes even just deciding that they would work from home. It's a policy within the organization now that provides for that as well.
And yes, I wanted to just pick up on something that you've mentioned, Madam, that the technical team really put their hands into the mud when they tried to, make sure that we have the proper interventions that would allow us then to streamline our journey throughout that pandemic. And I want to shift the focus to Tom. Tom, could you let us know what that journey was to you and your technical team? How did you go through all of it? And how then did you eventually land on Microsoft Teams as the tool that we're going to be using?
So for us, if I can remember the journey correctly, one of the things that I can say was that we were very excited. We were very happy to get that call from the team lead. I actually remember it word for word because at that point we had stayed at home for I think 4, 5, 6 weeks. Some of us were getting tired. We were getting tired with the familiarity of the environment that we were in. So when we got the call, we immediately started doing research. We knew of a few, collaborative cloud services and collaborative platforms that we could be able to engage with. And so we started that process. And within that process, I think top of the agenda for us was to ensure that first we get a service provider that can allow for video conferencing capacity to be scaled up so that we can be able to also engage with our students apart from internal meetings. Then we're also looking for a real-time collaborative environment that would allow us to work on things such as proposals, reports, and so on. Because as the CEO has said, we were facing a real prospect of actually staying at home for a very long time. So apart from that, there was also the issue of knowledge management and finding a space where we can be able to store all this data and information. We're in the middle of research then, and hopefully analyze and turn it into a narrative or knowledge that we can use in the future. So with those three in mind, we did a lot of research within that particular space. And to be honest, we saw a lot of platforms, but none of them had what we wanted at that level apart from Microsoft Teams. And that's how we decided to start engaging with that. So it was a very exciting period for us. I remember arguing with people a lot about the platforms. It got to a point where it started becoming as if it was as if it was a pitching environment. Because you'd come and say, I have this platform, this is what I've researched, these are the features, I think we should take this. And then we'll take an hour or so just trying to, critique and see whether it was worth it or not. So it was a very good experience in general. And I think we really learned a lot from that.
Hi everyone, welcome back. And I wanted us to touch on the programs that we were implementing that is before the pandemic hit, during the pandemic, and just how much, how the level of impact that, first of all, the pandemic had, and then these programs that we're implementing now, what type of opportunities have they been able to open for us with what we're working with right now, all these years past the announcement?
Yeah, thank you very much, Grace. Maybe I would answer that question by beginning from where we were when the pandemic hit, then work a little bit into the pandemic period in terms of the work that we've done, and then maybe where that leaves us in terms of the future of our quick and engaging work. Firstly, when the pandemic had, like I said, occurred, we had a number of programs that were running, both here in Nairobi, which were mainly training delivery, and also outside Nairobi in rural Kenya, in the counties. Then they included, training programs, providing young people with digital and vocational skills for employability. They included a study that we were conducting at that time that was looking into women and youth farmers from rural areas, access to digital, locally relevant digital agricultural content, and just how that could enable them to improve their farming practices. And that had been funded by the UK Government Digital Access Programme, while the Digital Skilling Programme had been funded by Microsoft and also Motorola Solutions Foundation. So those are the programs that, got disrupted in the course of it. We were also in the process of, negotiating for other bigger programs with other partners whose actually negotiation process had come to was first coming to an end. That April, we were supposed to conclude a very big project that was about 5 years, and we had a partner had already scheduled a visit to Kenya from outside Kenya. And so when this happened and travel was, slowed down, then it meant that they could not come in, and so therefore that was really basically, on the side of ACWICT, the end of that project, because by the time things eased up a bit and we needed to reconnect, even partners had also shifted their focus based on the experience of, going through COVID, to look at other priorities than maybe the ones that we had before. Yes, to speak to that, those were the programs that we were having at around that time. That we're implementing, targeting altogether a very big number of youth. I think on the digital skilling one, we were to reach out to 10,000 youth that year. The research was focusing on both agriculture in a county outside Nairobi called Laikipia, and then, also on the digital work environment, looking at what, what barriers farmers experience in being able to access digital content in this country, and just what can we do in terms of that to enable access, knowing the value of accessing digital agricultural content that has been provided in a local environment. So for those programs, of course, we had to quickly find ways of working them through. For the training, I think Thomas talked about it. That's how we got onto an online training platform that supported instructor-led kind of learning, but in a virtual environment using Microsoft Teams. So we were able to call back the young, women that we were training then to come back to their classrooms. But then now they had to address the issue of beginning to learn through gadgets, through their computers, through their phones, because they had been used to live instruction, yes, but in a physical environment. Yeah, so that is something that we needed to look into, and also just to have parents believe, or their caregivers, I would say, believe in this virtual delivery of training. We had to do a little bit more advocacy work, even at the parents' level, to have them understand that their children were going through can continue safely and securely online. So we had to very quickly again twist our learning to incorporate aspects of online safety, cyber hygiene, because all of a sudden now things that we used to do physically had to be done virtually. On the research projects, we had quickly again look at what would happen, because we were just at the point of now going to collect data from the potential beneficiaries of such a program, the farmers, the online workers, so that we could be able to actually look into it and understand on analysis of that data what, really makes it difficult for them to work with digital, to access local relevant digital content in the areas that they are in, like agriculture, like online work. So again, for that, we quickly devised ways, and we had to use computer-aided, technology interaction method to be able to collect the data. So those physical environments that we were to engage, then now we didn't manage to do so. So we were able to continue and complete our studies in digital employability and in access to agricultural, locally relevant agricultural, digital content. But also as a result of that, cutting off of physical environments, we realized that we had some resources left with us. Like I said, partnership is, is really about communication and bringing challenges on the table and addressing them together. We then shared with our partner then, on the research side, who was UK Government Digital Access Program, the fact that the limitation on physical engagement was going to enable us save some resources. And we wanted to invest those resources to do yet another study within the space of health. The COVID-19 pandemic being a health concern, we also just wanted to see how can current, at that time, healthcare service providers overcome the challenge of COVID-19 pandemic that is related to the lockdown, related to restricted movement, and continue delivering services to patients across the country. How do they continue, for example, monitoring their supplies during that period? How do they know, for instance, when there's an emergency at facility B, that there would be an ambulance at facility A that is available to come in and help, this situation? So we really just flung fully into delivery of our services online. I remember one of the very, very first activities, the projects that we started with, was this one that we wanted to reach out to young people across the sub-Saharan Africa. With digital means, we were sure we could reach people from all over the place. It didn't have to be limited to Kenya only. And so we wanted just to convey one message that, hey, even though we are down with this pandemic, this is what you can continue doing. If you are a student, if you are in school, still in the learning graph, please sign up. This would be good platforms for you to continue learning. If you are at home and you've lost your livelihood, online work, for example, would be an option. We really just wanted to get out there and make sure this is how you can communicate with your loved ones wherever they were locked up. Because remember, the lockup meant that you stopped right where you were at the time it was announced. So how are you going to continue communicating? In some instances, people needed phone, but phone can be expensive depending on distance. So we wanted to continue being in that space to provide that service. So we had the very first activity into the COVID-19 phase. We conducted a regional webinar that we wanted to reach out to all these people with that message and give them options during that period of time. In the meantime, our studies were going on, and steadily towards completion. And so while we were still going on with the studies, the situation and the economic need of women and families continued heightening. So again, we went back to our partner, who was still UK Digital Access Program, and we were like, if you had any resources, we strongly believe that if we trained a number of women and equipped them with online work skills, they can be able to secure some jobs, work online from the comfort of their homes, earn a living, so that they can be able to take care of their families and in many ways reduce the stress and strain they were going through that was in some cases even leading to domestic violence, fighting over there being no food in the house, expecting that one partner would bring food but they are not able to because of course there's nowhere to work and all that. So again, graciously and kindly, our partner, who is UK AID Digital Access Program, gave us funding to test out that project. And we did. We were able to reach out to, we wanted to reach out to 1,000 young girls from the informal settlements in rural Kenya. But we reached out to them fine, quite a number. And remember, the entire process of recruiting this time now is online. Interviewing, selection is all happening online. So we finally were able to get close to slightly over 1,000 in class, but the completion rate was low. It was around 841. So when we implored to try to understand why these young women were not completing training, the issue was that somewhere along the line, they lacked, ability to access the internet. They didn't have money to buy bundles. They didn't have money to, buy bandwidth. So they were unable completely to finish. But out of the 841 that finished, we were lucky to report at the end of the project that slightly over 60% of them secured employment and started earning during that period of time. And so many of them spoke to just the ease, just the joy it brought in their families, that they were able to bring in some income working from home. So much so that it even became a duty of caregivers at times to call. We received calls from a number of caregivers here. Can I have my daughter come into the program? That particular project targeted young women only because of obviously, looking at it from a gender perspective, the different ways in which women and men would be able to suffer from such a situation. We found that women were carrying the higher brand of the domestic violence resulting from that. So that project came and went, and it was successful. We received funding for the second phase, again, which targeted another 1,000. This time around, we were careful enough to input some provision for being able, supporting them to access the internet. And wow, we had a wonderful completion. The completion rate rose to 99 point, I think 5%. Yeah. And so the small percentage that dropped out then had reasons. Partly maybe some of them got unwell in the journey. Some of them had other family commitments that made it difficult for them to finish. But 5% compared to the other percentage that was much bigger, I think for us was a big success. So at around that time, again, as we now going into the second phase of the COVID-19 and digital employability program, that's what we called it, our studies, our research was also ready. And we had our findings on our hands now. Farmers had said that, some of the reasons that they are not able to access and utilize digital agricultural content was one, because they just didn't have the skills to do so. They don't have the skills to do so. And even where there could be skills, although in most cases there are no skills, access to the internet in terms of affordability and availability was a big issue. In some cases, even if they wanted to access, the availability of the internet itself was not available. Then the issue of the content not being relevant to their needs. There's a lot of content outside there. So just if they go to the internet, how sure are they that they'll get the content they're looking for? How long will it take them to get that content? So that aspect of there being no, relevant content to their need came up. they raised issues around language. The content is maybe even where it's available in little bits, then the aspect of language. They were concerned around issues of security. They had this of cyber crimes, and so how secure can I be? I go to the internet with my phone and all my money is lost, that kind of stuff. A lot of things. So with that in our hands, then we got additional support now to go into the agricultural space and look into how, if these skills were given, if we collaborated with partners and access to the internet was made a little bit affordable, if we collaborated with partners and content was, aggregated in one place, and some of it translated into a language that they can be able to understand, and for that content to focus on the actual, situation in their
The ground.
and on the ground, would they be able to access that content? Would they be able to benefit from it? So we had a pilot that we implemented in Laikipia County, and we partnered with the Kenya Agricultural Livestock Research Institute and other content service providers, Kabi, I remember Digital Green, Eka Africa, who were then able to provide funding for, agricultural services, and came together and, put together a project that we now rolled out as a pilot. And that project was very, very successful. And we saw a number of women farmers now very excited using their phones to be able to access this digital content. They even built a one-stop platform, a one-stop shop platform that they use to sell their products. And today we have farmers in Laikipia County selling for as much as 400,000 shillings, which is around $4,000. Their products through this. So with that platform, then they've been able to overcome the issue of the middleman. They're able to access the market directly. Market is able to access them. So in between them and the market is just to look at the other aspects of delivery, which is transport and the rest. And this platform also, interests such service providers because they know there's an opportunity for them also to provide services and make money.
Actually, I was able to check the
Yes.
the statistics for the one-stop shop platform, and it's at 2,500 farmers now.
That's nice.
So just to highlight how that was impactful for them in a relatively short time. I think is something that was very important. Maybe before you move ahead, I wanted you to just paint a picture of how dire that situation was in terms of levels of digital literacy. There's been talk of, I think, 1%, less than 1%. So in your findings, just how dire was the situation, especially among young women within the county?
Yes. Yeah, I think in terms of the 1% came in the space of access to digital content. This is a country whose main economic activity is agriculture. And yet, only 1% of the population is able to access digital agricultural content for the reasons that I have given. And so the concern was then, for a country that relies entirely on agriculture, and not agriculture, not meaning only on the farm, including those that also benefit from the different levels of the agricultural value chain. Because some people, there are those who depend on agriculture by virtue of coming in to provide transport. Those who depend on agriculture by virtue of coming in, to just connect maybe somebody to a market, that kind of stuff. When you look at all that aggregated, the dependency on agriculture in that county is very, very high. And yet only 1% of them was able to access that digital content. And even, and they mentioned of a bigger percentage listening to radio for the same content. But then we also got to realize that through partnerships and the kind of platforms that we were able to raise, to develop and customize for them, like Calro, We were able to customize Laikipia Agricultural Observatory platform down from the Kenya Agricultural Observatory platform. Was able to give very accurate information. Very accurate information in terms of, for example, rainfall, when, how much rainfall it would be, and for how long, for instance. This is information they were not getting from their traditional sources of information. So with that kind of information, then a farmer knows when to plant.
Yeah.
Because you can see heavy rains coming today, and that's from their own words. Heavy rains today, dash to the ground to put seed and plant, and then 3, 4, 5 days later, there's no rainfall. This platform is able to, give them the rainfall pattern. Like they would know what the rainfall would look like, the amount of rainfall they would receive in a month. That means that then they can be able to plant today, knowing that there's rains to keep their, seed and germinating and crop growing for 1 month. Then perhaps there would be a break, then there'll be some other rain again. So in a very big way, that speaks to issues of food and nutrition security as well. Because when they know that, then they can manage their farming products in a way that they can be assured of good harvests, increased harvests from which they can, take some to the market and also keep themselves for the rest for themselves at household level. And as you know, a family that feeds well also has reduced health issues. So it's a dire situation, really. Food security is key. Actually, agriculture is a health issue. Yeah, if a family that feeds well, we definitely can have very few, health issues around them. And for them to feed well, then we need increased agricultural production. For increased agricultural production, there's need for that information to enable decision making. That information, if it's available over an internet platform, it can be accessed by everyone, anytime. So Thomas, you asked about the situation. That is what it meant. And remember, and also this was a time, because of that lockdown, extension officers were not moving. So these farmers could not get extension services. The only extension service there was for them was the intervention by that project that was looking at promoting access to locally relevant digital agricultural content by women, disadvantaged women and youth farmers in Laikipia County. Extension services were very key. But away from the extension service officer, who is a government employee, now away back at home and not allowed to move, they were able to use these platforms to access that.
And I think that speaks to a very unique model, because we are so used to empowerment opportunities where the key focus is in training. But with this, having participated in program implementation, I think what was so unique about the entire program was that we didn't just focus on, creating awareness. We actually took that next step and said, we want to develop these platforms for you. We want to bring them closer. And I think it's something that, we will definitely do a better job in sharing out there, because I think there's a very big opportunity to, educate, CBOs and local authorities as well as to what farmers and even SMEs and any other key contributors in the socioeconomic context on how to empower them with knowledge, because it just doesn't start with training and ends there. It has to be about, bringing these platforms, bringing these solutions close to them so that they can be able to see the relevance and use them to be able to, further their different goals. Because as the CEO has said, to have a space where at the beginning of the program we're talking about less than 1%, to where in less than a year we're talking about 2,500 farmers in Laikipia County using a one-stop shop platform. That to me just speaks to how effective the model was and how it's been able to help the farmers.
So, Thomas, the third project I would say we implemented very successfully during this period was our healthcare, digital skilling for healthcare workers project, again in Laikipia County. I mentioned how it came about as an additional study over the digital employability and digital agriculture project. And we were able to train the healthcare service providers in the entire county, equipped them with digital skills that would enable them deliver their services digitally, and also overcome the issue of distance that had become a challenge during COVID-19, and continue reaching out to their patients with messaging around when they would come for treatment, if they would be able to, or just making them to, understand, continuously updating them on when maybe the next services would be available where. But most importantly for us also during that period of time was the training around just how important it was for them to collect data around even the COVID-19 outbreak itself, so that they can be able to know what was happening, how the numbers were doing. I think that training also came out to be very, very important for them at that time. One thing that really excited me is that through the digital scaling program, the entire health department in Laikipia got connected. So much so that their monthly meetings were now being done virtually, and saving on the time that they spend. Healthcare workers in facilities in rural Laikipia, the time that they spent coming to the county referral hospital for meetings to submit reports really was cut short, because now they were able to submit those reports to their line managers at the county level without necessarily traveling to the county. So the communication, the updating was almost instant. There was this case of this lady, healthcare service provider, who came from a very far end of Laikipia County, and it took her 3 days in a normal environment away from COVID to submit the report and go back, because she needed a day to travel to the county referral hospital in Nanyuki. She needed a day to submit her reports, and then she needed a day to travel back. At a time when she was the only person within that healthcare facility, that meant that the facility was closed. Or if it was open, it didn't have her expertise at that point in time. And you can imagine how risky that can be on a life that really needed that service at that period in time. So all that was now able to, the county Department of Health was able to do it virtually. She collected her, data, wrote her reports, and submitted them virtually. Another exciting thing that again we saw coming out of there was the fact that, like I said, the entire department was now able to meet virtually. Even aspects of their continuous medical education that they used to spend time on physical sittings was now being done virtually, and they themselves could schedule virtual calls, give it timing, participate in the call, serve everybody, sign in from the entire county, participate in the calls. They were able, to even save the conversations and write their reports thereafter. They were so good that they could even organize themselves into small group discussions within the platform. It just turned service delivery for them, and even around their own departmental meetings and transacting business at departmental level went virtual. And it saved them a lot of time, saved them a lot of resources as well, that they were spending on travels, they were spending on delayed sometimes reporting because information wasn't didn't arrive at the right time and all that. So that's also another success that we saw during that period of time. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, Just to add to what you've said, because again, I think it's very, very important that these stories are properly documented and are highlighted for everyone to see. Because I remember one of the problems they had just before we came in, because I personally implemented with the leadership of the team leader and the program manager. We were there to implement the early stages of the program. One of the biggest issues they had was that they were collecting all of this data using papers and all manner of physical effects. They were collecting this data, but they weren't able to, convert it into information or knowledge that they can be able to use to properly provide the healthcare services that the people in Laikipia County deserved. So, just having that engagement and, seeing that level of understanding and applicability come into effect for me was something that, I really remember as being very, very impactful to the healthcare workers. Yeah. So, as we conclude, what would you highlight as the organization's biggest achievements during this period, and how have they gone on to shape your outlook on programs moving forward?
Thomas, first of all, I would start by saying that ACWICT is an ICT for development organization.
Yes.
And throughout the years that we have been working, one of our greatest wishes and desire was that people would get to a point of appreciating the role of digital enablement in transforming the way they do business, and therefore being able to achieve more from what they do. This, I must say, to some extent was difficult. It wasn't an easy walk down the park, because again, it was always this of people are prioritizing. Is it technology?
Yeah.
Is it food on the table? Is it technology? Is it, school fees? So is it technology? Is it water? So that really was a hard conversation that was difficult to beat. But one of the things that has happened during this COVID-19 period is that it has what would I say? It has accelerated the appreciation of digital means to achieving development goals.
Yes. Yes.
It has accelerated digital means, the conversation around digital means and realizing livelihood opportunities. The whole conversation about the value of integrating digital means, or ICT for that matter, into people's day-to-day lives and achieving their goals, be they educational, be they agricultural, be they health, be they entrepreneurship or SME, whatever they are, people came to appreciate very much the fact that it adds value. That is given for sure. Because everyone, including even old women, that we go to interact with their children and grandchildren, were able to appreciate. People were talking, bundles everywhere, even the elderly. Talked about, I need 100 shillings to buy bundles. So they had appreciated that via digital means, learning can continue. Via digital means, job can be found, can be done, and people can earn. Via digital means, you can access a market, you can access for your farm products, you can access, digital extension services. You can be able to access information that helps you improve your farming. So that's one big achievement that the COVID-19 brought to surface across the world. And as an organization, we are very happy to have been part of that. And because it was an agenda that we had been coining and pushing forward for the longest time, that now the pandemic was able to come and like provide a stamp of approval that this is indeed possible. Today we celebrate, very, very many women and youth that are using, technology in different ways. I just talked about farmers that are now able, for instance, women farmers find a crop that a crop that is almost like drying, pick that leaf that is drying, take a photo of it, submit it into a platform that addresses crop disease, and receive instant feedback about what they should do with that particular crop. And the feedback includes remedial measures. Go and buy this medicine and be able to provide this, administer it this way, and then your crop will, or in fact do it at a large scale, so you make sure that none of your crops are affected by that. Through the same technology, they're able to tell the nearest agrovet, for instance, so they don't have to move all the way to a town far when there's an agrovet shop near them. So we have seen lots of that. We have seen increased yields. We have seen people earning. We have seen people learning more, people getting certified on courses that they would otherwise not get certified to because they have accessed them through distant learning and virtual learning. There's this whole space of awareness around the use of digital. And everywhere you go today, I can tell you for sure people appreciate digital technology. Coming down to ACWICT, from the broader perspective, I may also just want to talk about numbers that we were able to reach, because numbers are part of the achievement.
Definitely.
On our digital employability program that was funded by Microsoft, and the program was about skills for jobs and livelihoods that we implemented during this period. We have been able to reach out to about 150,000 youth that we have equipped with different skills at different levels, beginning from basic digital literacy, online work, into even career paths like programming, coding, data science, and IT infrastructure. We have been able to give them those skills that have enabled them to secure jobs in different places. We're talking about close to 5,000 young people today working out of the 150. Not mentioning those that have taken entrepreneurial pathways and that are using this technology at an entrepreneurial level to promote their businesses to earn more money. So I think somewhere towards the end of this year, we'll be conducting that evaluation just to be able to find out who is where doing what. But with the technology skills that they earned, but we have had that happen. I would say from the COVID-19 and digital employability, we have been able to reach close to 3,000 young women only. It was a women-only program. Majority of who are working today, both online and also in traditional IT jobs as we know them, and making a living. Mentioned of healthcare workers that I would say automated now, and they are delivering their services in an automated environment. For me, that's a big achievement. Coming to farmers, I think from this one county, we have reached close to 33,000 farmers that are today up and about with technology integration. Moving with it, checking everything they can with it, looking for content, applying the content, and all that. But we also had this other goal of, apart from direct skilling, we also just wanted to create awareness to do through available means to ensure that as many people as possible are able to appreciate, to learn, to hear, learn, and appreciate what is happening to Laikipia County, so that they can also be able to begin to practice that by themselves. And as we speak today, statistics as at the end of July indicated that around 1.5 million people were already moving into different digital agricultural service provider platforms to be able to acquire this knowledge and information. So for us, it has been a time of achieving a goal that we have been pursuing for a long time, but achieving it with evidence.
Yes.
To
Yes.
me, that's what is most striking.
Yeah.
That we have evidence on our hands that can actually, undoubtedly, speak to this. And that, as I speak now, there are counties that, as a result of this program, have started allocating resources
Yeah.
into digital employability programs, resources into the creation of digital agricultural content
Yeah.
and training of their farmers to be able to, access that content for improving the agricultural practices.
Yeah.
County governments are already adopting the initiative, and that means, therefore, that policy is shifting
Yeah.
towards appreciating that. And once it hits policy level and is taken up, then we can be sure that the spread and the reach
Yeah.
is even going to be wider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's very important to state. Just to add a little bit though, from a technology point of view, uh, just being able to uh, launch an e-learning platform for us as a technical team and for the organization, I think was a very, very big deal. Remember, we did this at the height of COVID-19 pandemic. And again, we didn't do it just because we felt it was necessary. We did it because multiple donor partners, led by Microsoft and UKAID, as Constantine has talked about, saw that there was value in the training that we were offering and that we needed to significantly scale this up. We are talking over 150,000 people having been reached this year alone. Next year, we have a target of possibly another 150,000. So to have people see the value in the training program to the point where they were willing to co-fund the development of an e-learning platform that can house all of our learning content and still be able to, provide space in the future for further integrations. I know we've been talking about mentorship. We've been talking about, possibly even having a job linking function within the platform. I think for me that was a very, very big achievement, and we launched it in front of the PS4 ICT, and just having that and positioning it as national buy-in, I think is something that will stand out for a very, very long time. Yeah. So, Grace, I don't know if you have anything within the creative space. I know we didn't touch on it as much as we can. What are some of the things that, because again, we didn't leave them behind. Artists also need
Before
digital
Grace
skills.
comes in,
Yeah.
Thomas,
Yeah.
another very exciting functionality of the digital platform that we created is the fact that it can be accessed through the mobile phone as
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
and the online offline work environment, which means that the user or the learner spends less on bandwidth and
Yeah.
bundles.
Significantly less.
Yeah, significantly less, because they will download the learning material, they learn it offline, sign up online for the update to happen. Everything they did while they were offline is updated when they sign on. To me, I found that to be an intervention that was quite a value add that has really gone a long way to ensure that people benefit from that technology. So it was a good thing. It was a major one for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
So, Grace, how about your creative space?
Well, for me, I can't even single out. I don't want to single out anything. I think the greatest achievement would just be the fact that we picked up the creative space as a whole. What we are realizing now is the generation of youth that we're trying to reach, to impact. Where are they spending their time? Where are they getting the information? Where are they connecting with their peers? Where are they getting information on jobs, how to secure scholarships, all these things that they can be able to access? How then, what different art forms can they use to pass the same knowledge to their own peers? So it's something that is taking the younger generation like me by storm. Just the fact that we have that advantage that Madame just talked about. We were born into the technological age, so it's like we've literally grown up with it.
With it,
So we don't have an issue integrating it. It's already integrated youth-wise. So then, what else could we have been able to do to go right there where they are, so that we can be able to reach out to them? So the fact that the organization under Madame's leadership decided and saw the need, so that there were gaps that could be addressed if we walk into the creative space. How best then can we reach the youth that we're trying to impact? So coming up with this different model entirely and trying to get them where it interests them. That to me was a big achievement, because sometimes you can be in an organization that wants to reach a certain group of people but has no idea how to reach them, has no idea then how do they connect on a day-to-day basis. And I think that's what was very, very key once we walked into that space. We wanted to understand, how are they connecting, how are the youth now getting information, what are they doing then to be able to support themselves in regards to all these different types of creative forms, how they can be able to pass that information, encourage each other, talk about their entrepreneurial ideas, talk about maybe whatever it is, I want to talk about what they're doing in university, what they're trying to be able to achieve, what type of skills they need. So the organization sitting down and agreeing to the fact that this is where we need to reach them through. Because, a lot of people might not think that the creative space is a form of IT. They might just push it aside and think that's for creatives. Those are people who are creative.
Additional talents.
Those are additional on top of everything else. That's just what you have. But it's what Madame has been talking about, the integration into it. So the fact that we step into that space has to be one of the biggest achievements for me this year. I know we are really getting to the youth properly now.
Oh, so I think that's been very informative.
Very, very informative.
Madam CEO, thank you for creating time to engage with us. It's been a very good learning
experience
process for some of us. As I like to tell Grace from time to time, I've been here for 10 years, but I still keep learning new ways and new methods that we can apply to our programming to be able to help us be better employees for ACWICT and ambassadors for what young people outside there need, especially when it comes to when it comes to digital scaling for us moving forward.
So many things happened in that work from home environment during COVID-19. I think for me, one of the things that really I would share today as the lightest moment I experienced was when I had this, there was this cock that I had in the home and that we kept. It was the only bird that we had in the family, and so it had in many ways gotten used to being where people were. And one of the days, and what it got used to doing every now and then was every time somebody picked a call, it made sure that it was close there to crow. So all through this work from home environment, you didn't know where to hide so that it may not hear you on call, because the moment it heard that there was something like a telephone conversation going on, it quickly came close to a window, if it was a window, and then just made the sound. So then people would be like, "So where are you? Where are you? We can hear your hens and your birds." So yeah, that happened several times, and people go to understand that work from home is really home. When you're working from home, and the home environment does happen at around that time.
Yeah, I remember people used to joke around in the comment section and say, let's wait for the chicken to also have its say in the meeting. So 2 to 3 minutes later, you hear the chicken again shouting. So it's actually something that we all notice. It's just that we didn't
people
want
would
to
laugh.
And what about yours, Tom?
For me, well, it's funny now, but it was very serious at that point, because when we were I think at the very beginning of us trying to figure out the technology behind what we wanted to do, we had this opportunity to do a webinar with GSMA. And so, this was a very big opportunity at the time. I think this was one of the first activities as the CEO had stated. And so we spent, countless sleepless nights to try and figure out how best to, have this be done. So first of all, the biggest challenge we had at that point is that they decided to use a specific platform. I'll not mention any names. They wanted to use a specific platform which we weren't quite aware of. And so just trying to understand that dashboard and make sure that we were all equipped with the skills needed to successfully implement that webinar. That took a lot of time. So fast forward to the webinar itself, we decided to all be in one location, obviously keeping distance and all of that. So we decided to be all in one location. And we charged all our laptops. We made sure everything was okay. The one thing we didn't figure out is that the internet doesn't depend on our laptops. Yeah, for its power. So we were all in this one space and we were participating. I believe I was the one who was speaking. Then all of a sudden, lights go off. So what was funny about that time is that, everybody, we panicked and made sense of the situation at the same time. So, you were shouting, but as you were shouting, you were thinking of solutions and collecting everything. And so I remember there being a blank space for around 2 to 3 minutes. But when we came back, we still found people there. We still found people there. And the reason for us, the reason why we consider that as being a light moment now is that because that was the moment that we realized we could do this. Yeah, regardless of challenges that we'll find on the ground, regardless of, some of the technological issues that will come with that, we can still achieve all of this. And since then, we were unstoppable. We were unstoppable. It didn't matter whether it was a virtual training that was running for half a day or a full day. As long as we had the technology that we needed to use and the team that had the capacity to use it, we could achieve everything that we wanted to. Yeah.
I hope that you were able to overcome. I'm sure the trauma you must have had.
Yeah. It's actually on YouTube. If
With the blank.
if our Tiff talks we well, I'll share the link so that you guys can be able to experience it. But keep in mind that was at the very beginning of this work from home initiative. So those teething issues were definitely there. Yeah.
Mine isn't per se a challenge, like as compared to Tom. At the beginning of all this, 'cause, no, I wasn't that interested. I wouldn't say with virtual learning, those type of platforms. So eventually, anyway, we get to a position where we're in an orientation for new beneficiaries to work in for our training. And one thing that I think most people, care to admit is that with the work from home came with a new level of multitasking. Because I could believe I could do anything. I can be washing my dishes and I'm listening to a meeting. So I had the idea and the notion that I can multitask and do all these things. As I'm multitasking and doing other things in the house, I was called upon to speak in the virtual meeting. And so I'm rushing from one end to head to the meeting. And when I finally get to the computer, I put on my video and not the camera. So my face was in front of everyone like this. And so they're wondering what's going on. And I'm speaking and I'm going on and I'm wondering what's... But I'm on mute, but I've put the video on. So... some things you just swallow the embarrassment, and I had to pull back and mute my mic and proceed. But then I couldn't even continue multitasking anymore. I stopped everything and I said, "Let me give you the time that you deserve and you so need." But my team has never let me forget. So they've never let me forget. Any chance they get, you put your face on the mic there and you. But I think it was really light for me. Definitely embarrassing at the moment. Being called to deliver a very, very serious point, you guys. It was a very serious point. And then I come and my face and my nose is all over the screen. you can see the background is going haywire. My house is on fire. You can see the sufurias there because I'm trying to cook at the same time. So it was a whole fiasco. But I think it made me feel really nice anyway. The students also, I'm sure, just felt a bit more calm because now they understand these people are just as normal as we are.
When we went to deliver digital skills training in one of the remote parts of this country, one of the up-country counties called Kilifi, and we were now preparing trainers to be able to provide that training, give that training to farmers on the ground. And this lady came and went through the entire training program. And we got to the point of taking them through just how to access the different digital platforms that are available for them to access, that will enable them access this content. And so we asked them to go to a Play Store. To I think it was Google Play Store.
Google Play Store.
Yeah. And first she was hesitant. Google Play Store? Why am I going to a Play Store? I came for training. These guys want to take me through gaming or what? So then the training continues and she gets there and she's guided to download the app that she needed to. And she goes through the app and she begins to appreciate the information that was on that app, because then she's being taken on to how she can access different weather advisories for her farming practice. And the remark she made was that she never knew that Google Play Store was not about games. For all the years she's had her children talk about Google Play Store, she's snatched them phones, she's done all manner of stuff, knowing very well that that is space for gaming. But it occurred to her then that there's more than just gaming on Google Play Store. And she was very excited that she can now go there and get information. And she saw a lot more other resources that she can access. So that realization just tells you how much people need to be made aware on the digital resources that are available for them to be able, that can help them to transform their daily business affairs. And from that day, she said she will be going there for one app and the other, just to be able to manage her day-to-day activities, and especially that relates to her farming practices. So there was a lot of learning, like I said before, during that period. A lot of unknown knowledge surfacing to people becoming more aware. There was a lot of learning. And for us as ACWICT, despite it all, these challenges that we went through, cocks crowing on the side, internet going off on us on a regional webinar, Grace coming up, and in fact that was very common. The bit of speaking to a speaker that is muted, that was very common. So you're struggling, you're speaking, and people are not hearing.
There's hours worth of compilations on YouTube of people making those mistakes.
But we're grateful. I mean, for us, it's been forwards ever, as they would put it. We've never looked back in delivery of our services virtually.
When we finished implementing the first phase of the digital health program, I remember meeting with two healthcare workers for a cup of tea immediately after the TOT, and there's this one quote that has been really impactful to date in our program approach, and that's the fact that now, basically what they said is that now they understand the role of data within the healthcare space. It seems like a very small quote, doesn't really seem to carry a lot of weight, but when you put it into context with our fight against COVID, and just how important it was to consistently rely on data to be able to figure out if we are ready to go back to work, and if so, for how long can we work, how strict can the curfews be. To me, that's that was the main determinant. All these issues to do with, are we opening or are we closing? Are we letting businesses go back to their day-to-day activities without any sort of restrictions? It was all based on data and how well it was being interpreted. So to have a healthcare worker who at the beginning of the program wasn't quite sure, they were collecting all of this data, yes, but they didn't see how it could be turned into actionable items that could save lives in the county, to get to a point where they fully understand and acknowledge the role that it can play. I think for me that was, as small as the quote is, that was one thing that to date has rang true. Yeah.
As, for me, I'd say, well, to provide some context anyway, I think we were in Laikipia collecting success stories in regards to the digital agriculture program. So we'd go to the beneficiaries so that we can just have a listen to, where they were before,
Yeah.
what they went through during the training, and then after the training, what's going on. So I was interviewing a lady who's a pastoralist at the moment. And before the training, she mentioned that she was just like a blue collar worker. She's just doing jobs on a daily, living hand to mouth. And then she met an extension officer who's her friend and took her to the training, so forth and so forth, the entire process. And so when I was interviewing her, she just mentioned that, if I can say it in Kiswahili anyway, because that's what she said. She said, ACWICT ndio imefanya ninunue nyumba na niweze kupeleka watoto wangu shule. So I mean, it's a common thing people can say. It's not, those type of quotes that will be written down like that. But then the fact that she recognizes anyway that I am here now and I've been able to achieve the things that I have because I met you guys, I met you as an organization and I interacted with you guys. So it's one thing to sit in the office and say that we have impact. We've created impact. But then it's another thing to actually see it firsthand and have, the beneficiaries talk about it from their own point of view. So to me, that really stuck. I wish I could see her again anyway, just to see how she's proceeding either way. Yeah. Because I think after the interview, I haven't seen her again, but I left there knowing that, there's something that we're doing. The impact that we keep talking about back at the secretariat, it's real, it's happening, this is what's going on.
Yeah.
We're changing people's lives for the better. And I think that just stuck with me. It's common, but that's what stuck with me through this entire time.
I think the best thing about the quotes is that you don't even have to see the person again. They are so strong to the point where even 5-10 years from now, because of their significance and just how they develop with time, you'll always remember them. Step away from the professional side a little bit and just highlight something, a very important skill in hospitality that I learned. And really, that's just, for me, I think the most important achievement was finally being able to cook for one. Yeah. During the pandemic, as I'm sure most of you are aware, people were locked out. There were no plans to go out and have fun with their 2 or 3 friends. And so by the time you are getting to week 5 or 6, you realize that you needed to start economizing resources that were around you. So being able to scale that down to not necessarily just one person, but just enough to sustain you for that period, I think is something that as a young man growing up in this country, I had to learn that the hard way. So ever since then, it's usually very, very easy. If I get home and I'm thinking about just doing something small for dinner, it's just a question of finding the utensils and then moving from there. So it may not seem as a big achievement to you guys, but to me, I think that was something that has continued to help me to date. Yeah.
That's us, but this term young is being thrown here and there.
Yeah, that's why I said relatively at the very beginning. Yeah.
For me individually, I think being here for the past 2 years has really changed my social life. I think I'm almost in the same line as Tom. Education-wise, the career that I was pursuing, or the course that I was pursuing, is really demanding. So you can find yourself getting lost in the books and having your own world entirely.
Yeah, that's true.
And I had dissociated from a lot of the people who were around me at the time. And then COVID came, so it just doubled down on that.
Yeah.
But then coming, and like I lost social skills, that I can put it like that. I didn't know now how to relate to people, and I wanted to always be alone. But then coming into ACWICT and the past 2 years, even if it's working virtually with the beneficiaries, that slowly got built up.
Yeah.
And so I have, even though it's still dwindling, because we do a lot of work, but it's there.
Yeah.
And it's because of the past 2 years that it was built. So individually, I think it's one of my greatest.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's it. Grace, maybe you can close us out.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Tom, for, first of all, being a wonderful co-host. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
For being relatively young also.
Yeah. That's on the CV somewhere.
And thank you, Madam Executive, for
Yeah.
taking the time to join us here today. Thank you to you guys for sticking with us throughout this time. This has been a great episode. I hope that we can continue to engage as we continue to give you guys more information, dive deeper into the organization and the kind of work that we do. Do not forget to follow us on our social media pages. We have Instagram, ACWICT.ke. We have Facebook, ACWICT. Follow Grace Space Studios. They've given us this wonderful space to be here today, and I think for a number of episodes if we talk to the owner nicely. But they're amazing space, great production team. So you can also follow them on their pages. Follow Lead Podcast on across all the platforms. We have Spotify, we have Google Pods, we have Apple Pods, YouTube and Anchor. You can be able to find us there and keep listening to our content, interacting with us as we dive deeper into the space of ICT for development. Thank you so much.